Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. My name is Mel, and I'm joined this morning by Clayton, our WikiHouse product lead. And our special guest this morning is Piyush from Pulp Build. They're based in Leicester, in England, and they are designers, manufacturers, and builders working with the WikiHouse system since 2018. So they have a lot to talk about today. But before we do that, I'm just going to do a little bit of housekeeping. This event will last for approximately an hour. If you need to go, it's fine because it's going to be recorded, so you can watch it later on our YouTube channel. And basically, just write any questions you have at the bottom not at the bottom, on the right-hand side in the box, and we'll get to them at the end. Yes, so we're quite excited to be joined by Piyush this morning. I'm just going to start by asking you, Piyush, question, just a personal question. What were you doing before you started Pulp? What's your background? How did you come to do this work?
Hi, Mel. Thank you for the introduction. I originally studied electronics and communication as my first degree in India, and I am pretty much engineer at heart. So I progressed this further. I came to UK in 2003 to do embedded system and control. So it's a more of a software that's hidden from everybody else. It's all around us. And then I joined Motorola as a software engineer, worked there for a couple of years. After Motorola, we all got laid out, and then we joined a startup as a first employee who's specializing in manufacturing digital signal processing cards. They are mainly used in mobile technology space like a 4G and 5G. I worked there for about 12 years. Started as a software engineer, made my way up the ladder in corporate world, and then and I was leading a team. About 12 years in the company working, I was very much wanted to start my own. Wasn't sure what, so I decided to take a time out for about 6 to 7 months after leaving my job, thinking what I should start. And I pretty much wanted to start a technological company, but wasn't sure what at that point. And pretty much working from home, that's we all do nowadays. But I didn't have a office and wasn't able to concentrate enough as I wanted to. So I started hunting around and see whether I can build something or buy a garden studio in a back garden. And that's how the journey of the Pulp Build starts.
Excellent. So yeah, garden studios are quite hot at the minute, aren't they? Everybody wants some working space at home that's not quite at home. So do you remember the first time you heard about WikiHouse, and what do you think? What do you think initially about it?
So starting from my story back again, so I started hunting around how to build a garden studio. Now I've never built anything out of the timber of this scale. I'm a good DIYer, but I've never built one. And I had to learn. And I know the water is the enemy of the timber, and something that I had to learn about building science. So I spent a bit of a time figuring out what should be my build-up. I'm not architect or designer, so I had to pretty much learn all of that by myself. And then while I was searching for future of technology, future of construction, and how the technology helps in construction, and there WikiHouse was spot on there in middle of all my searches. Then I went on searching where WikiHouse started, Alistair Perwin's TEDx talk. All of that made me quite excited at that time, but I didn't know where to start. But then the forums of WikiHouse, the community, and especially Clayton, who helped me get going with all the tools and files that I needed to start learning about WikiHouse. So pretty much 3 to 4 months, I was on full-on learning mode before I even start thinking about what should be my garden studio look like.
And you happen to be in your garden studio right now, so you win the background competition this morning. So you want to tell us a little bit? That was your first project, wasn't it? It was just you building your own space.
That was, yeah. That was the prototype. Just to see whether something we could build or not. So we designed this out from the WikiHouse open source script, which are Grasshopper and Rhino compatible. So I didn't know, so I had to learn the tools. I learned the script, found my way around some of the script. Now I'm a software engineer, so I find it right at home playing around with all these tools. Probably wasted way too much time, but I then came up with the design. The script generated some basic components for me, and then I did a first prototype test of a small structure or wall section, how I wanted to build the garden studio as. And then we assembled, so we started in April, the design process, and then we started assembling in August time frame. So you can see it's a fair bit of a long time to getting used to with the old WikiHouse system. But we did manage to build it without any mistake, touch wood. Very nervous feeling when you haven't done anything digitally manufactured, but once it's all parts as the jigsaw pieces, they all came together nicely, and we did build that first. It took us a while because we finished in April 2019 as a full garden studio. That's to do with it only took 3 days to build the whole structure up and waterproof it, but then rest of the process of the layers, building up the insulation, the cladding, the water management, took me a while to learn and order and figuring out how to do it. Nowadays we do much faster than that.
So this is 2019. So you've finished your garden studio. What happens after that? Because you were thinking, yes, I want to start my own business. This is a system I'm understanding now. I've built my first thing. What happens then?
At this point, we have spent a lot of time learning about building science from Building Science Corporation in the US, reading a lot of articles and papers. We also studied loads of different type of technology, and we have successfully built the garden studio. And we thought something we could do in this space. We're going to give it a try. It might work, it might not work. So I teamed up with my partner, who happened to be software engineer as well, and we worked together. And us two then formed the company in July or June time, 2019. And we have our first project with WikiHouse in 2019 December. That's the first prototype build for Blackbird technology, which is a post-end beam and facade system. Which is quite different to what we built here, which is a Wren technology. It's a portal frame system. So it's a different way of constructing the same building, basically. And there are different benefit, pros and cons for each system. And that's went quite good. And then the COVID hit, and then we diversified in interior furniture building, and we carried on taking other projects and bespoke projects and doing quite a full-on digitally fabricated bespoke projects, which made us now we are very confident that we can expand and scale further in the same space after spending about 3 years now.
Yeah, and in those 3 years, I was just looking at your website. We'll put the link at the bottom later. But you've got a beautiful gallery of projects that you've delivered so far. Do you want to show us some and talk to us about your favorite ones or most
I
challenging ones?
can. Let me share the screen. Okay, I hope you can see the web page. Okay, so
we can see it and we can hear you.
Okay, so I'll quickly talk about the last two projects we did. So the one you see on the left is a Highgate Garden Gym. I hope you can see my mouse. And this one we act as a timber frame supplier only. So it loads. So the architect normally gives us a brief and sometimes some basic SketchUp models to start designing. So during the appraisal phase, we do a quick checks on whether this will be possible using the technology we used. This one is not a WikiHouse construction, but it is pretty much all digitally fabricated chassis, very similar to what WikiHouse components looks like with the Skylark system. It's slightly different because I believe the Skylark was still getting in development during this process. So we have used a bit of a hybrid technology where main components are all digitally fabricated out of 18 mil 3/4 inch plywood cut on a CNC router. They cut like pieces of jigsaw and they come together as a block. So those are all the wall blocks you can see, and then we have a roof blocks as well. The main load carrier in this situation is LVL, laminated veneer lumber. So it's a bit like 2x10 timber, but it's engineered timber of the same size. So you can see we have a LVL for the lintel, and then the LVL as a post, and we also have a roof rafters as LVL, and our cassette, digitally fabricated cassette system perfectly slots into the between the gaps. Even the LVLs are also placed and slots into the prefabricated slots in the chassis. So there is no on-site measurements or cutting needs to happen with this timber. They pretty much pre-cut from the manufacturer and slots in place in situ. So there you can see how we have got the mono roof and slope roof meet. So we can come up with any bespoke shapes and sizes. So if I give you a quick example of the cassette system, so you can see they are pretty pre-notched to slots between the roof rafters, as well as the end box are quite different shapes and size, just to meet different interior roof lines. And you can see here the system where we have a non-exposed roof line on the left and that exposed roof line on the right. So we can do quite architecturally pleasing construction with the similar. So this project we finished about 5 days, so week time from arriving material on site to weather wrap and handing it over to the main contractor, which then finishes the whole project. We haven't got a final pictures yet, but I believe the project is finished with the architect. The next project we did, this is our full turnkey project. This uses a combination of two WikiHouse structural technology. So before I come to the final picture, let me just quickly go down and walk through this system. So this is a fully bespoke WikiHouse system. Normally in the digital fabrication, you tend to copy your one modules many times, and you take advantage of the WikiHouse or digitally fabricated system. However, the Garden Studio what designed working with us as a digital manufacturer, and the architect was quite keen for the shapes, for the planning regulations, and there were some constraints. So we pretty much wrapped our digitally fabricated chassis around what planning permission was granted for the building. So you can see these are the three main WikiHouse frames. So this is based on a very first WikiHouse technology. And all three frames here are unique dimension. The middle pillars on the first two frames are offset slightly to accommodate where the bathrooms and interior layouts is. And because this carry a very first hip roof construction using the WikiHouse technology, the bottom, the end frame is kind of a square end frame. And then you can see every single components are pretty much unique. There are only a couple of repeats, but then everything is fully bespoke construction. Again, this is also a hybrid technology which uses some timber element to form a hip roof. So these are the three frames in place. So they are set on a concrete upstand, which is done by our groundworks contractor. and it is have to be very careful on the levels. But once it's all established and set, then we place these frames. They are all built on site. Other than these cassettes, they are all prefabricated in workshop. But the larger frames, they span to about 5-6 meters, and they are all prefabricated on site. There's a little bit of close-up of beautiful the WikiHouse RAN structure. So if I show you, and this is the back end of the hip roof, where you can see how the timber element and how the timber is inserted into the prefabricated WikiHouse style RAN. Now these are the load barrier roof rafters, are digitally fabricated as well as uses the timber technology. Just to give a top overview, and that's how all the main timber frame is formed. Some of the more shots of how we erect them on site. So we don't use any heavy lifting machinery. Most of the components are lifted, are weighted quite carefully, which can be handled by 2 people or maximum 3 people. And there's some of the cassette system that's part of the WikiHouse second iterations of Blackbird system, which slots between the 2 portal frames. And there you can see how once it's all building is closed and where the wrap. So coming to the, so we also finished the full interior. Now, one of the benefit of WikiHouse system is that everything is model driven. So we don't have to keep measuring for when we come to the internal furniture. We already have the model information and sizes. So then we again digitally manufactured all these interior furniture and fit out, which is quite simple. And then we can also place it in a model. And this is a folding bed, so we can simulate the folding element and see how it will interact with the bifold door, and how the entry of the entry and exit happens from the resident when it's folded down. There's a shot of how the Murphy bed then folded up. And then we have used other contractors. We don't have all the in-house facility. So we do interior fit outs, but we have a plasterer, tilers who finish off the bathrooms, exterior landscaping. We had a fantastic opportunity to work with the local contractor who has done this beautiful pergola and finished off all the landscaping. That's probably there are other projects that we have done. Our Instagram has much more details. We talked about every single process, how we come about doing it, and the mistakes we have done. If you want to learn all the mistakes that we do, that's all on the Instagram feeds.
That's brilliant. I love the slide. I love the little slide on the left-hand side.
Thank you.
I'm just going to bring in Clayton back to the. Thanks so much for showing us that page. And as I said, I'll include the website and the Instagram as well, the URLs. I just wanted to ask you a question because I am quite new to the world of WikiHouse, and I've heard a lot the word manufacturing, and I'm imagining you have a workshop, and we see the files, we see them on the screen, and then on the other end, we see these beautiful creations of yours, like you've just shown us. How does the process work? What does the manufacturing process is like? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
One of the benefit of digital fabrication is you don't need a huge workshop setup. So we can fairly start with the very small workshop. We have a 1,000 square foot workshop, which is not huge, but it's much more efficient when you schedule in your material and where the machinery are placed and your workflows. So we have a full size 8 by 4 foot, 1220 by 2440 CNC machine that processes a standardized plywood sheets that you can buy from a local supplier or a timber merchant. They are 18 millimeter thick, 3¼ inch in size, and imperial. So the way we manage our space and workshop is once we get the design files, we know how many sheets we need to order. Depending on the workshop space, you can have a good relation with your timber supplier, which you can reserve how many sheets you need, pay some deposit, and get them to deliver in stages. So you deliver, say, 50 stacks of full load. You can process it about half, and then you can order the next stack, and you keep going, and you can process quite a lot of material. Based on which technology you are using, we normally appraise whether the customer has all the space available to store all the material. If they don't, then we try to manage the space by not building at all in one shot. We quite carefully manage which components are built when and where they go on a site first, and how they get loaded on a truck first, and when you unload it, which components goes delivered first and where. So we haven't done this perfectly anyway. So first few projects, we just load up everything, what everybody tend to do. And it is quite okay to load up whatever you feel like it. And then once you learned the best way of doing it, you can keep refining it. But you don't need a lot of space. So once you process it, you then assemble it in workshop. That's Lego style blocks, and then you load it up onto the trucks, which then come to the site, and then you unload it, and then you organize it for at least one day. And the next day you always schedule in to start building up or start erecting the chassis.
Wow, I hadn't thought about the space implications, but you're right. You don't have to have everything stored in one place at once. I'm just going to hand over to Clayton just now, because I know that you have got some questions as well for Piers.
Thanks, Mel. And there's a bunch of questions to see come through in the chat as well, so we'll get to those quickly, because they're probably far more interesting than what I've got to ask. But just generally, I'm interested in, because you use a hybrid role of across from design to completion pretty much. How do you sort of manage the early stage design to manufacturing process in-house? And it varies system to system, of course, but yeah.
Yeah, so we pretty much rely on, so we are not a huge team. I mainly design most of it with the help of my partner. So between us two, we act as a designer and reviewers, and we pretty much rely on software, and they are all tightly version controlled. What we do now, working for 3 years, we have a core components of libraries, which are parametrically can be modified to a certain extent. And we have a cutting files for those core components. The bespoke elements is always fun to do, but it does take time and deliver and test and get it approved by the structural engineers. So we schedule in the time for the bespoke components. They are drawn to anybody starting doing the design of WikiHouse themselves. We have used SketchUp for many years, and we still do use SketchUp for many years. We design everything in SketchUp. I know there are quite expensive tools like Revit, Autodesk, but you can start with the fairly basic £250 kind of a per year pro version of the SketchUp, which help you design and output the DXF file, which can be then designed, which can be cut by any manufacturer. When we design as a small team, we don't prep up our files to a final extent, because it's not going to other manufacturer. We know what files are, so we don't have to prep up the DXF file into details. We can just start releasing the files to the manufacturer. So while the design's been approved from structural engineer, we can then start scheduling how they get manufactured slowly at the same time, while we are putting up some of the other design elements which are non-structural.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. I think that's a good insight for a lot of people who are trying to, I guess, in some ways follow your journey, although you've definitely done all the legwork required over the years. Started from having to learn everything yourself from scratch because there wasn't a lot of documentation out there. We were sort of very early days with how we had, I guess, sort of promoted what we were doing with Ren. You really had to, learn everything yourself, which has been really interesting, I think, from your perspective, because it's giving you all these tools and skills now. But it's also, I appreciate the amount of time and effort you put into it to make that happen. The other thing is just in your experience from in construction now, and as a new role as a manufacturer builder, what do you think are some of the advantages the WikiHouse has over other systems? Why are you so keen to work with it particularly?
So there are various prefabricated systems. The one is digitally designed in either a small workshop, and all the components are digitally fabricated, as opposed to a large panelized system that you see sometimes on YouTube or in grand designs, where the panel flies in via the crane, and they do have their own place, but digitally fabricated system like WikiHouse has a much higher benefit for residential market, a small garden studio, or building a two-story 200 square meter house, because of the flexibility it has. WikiHouse has a more advantages because it's open source. There is a huge community behind it. There are various buildings are getting constructed around the world using different structural technologies due to different approval systems. UK has different approval systems for the buildings, as opposed to some of them in Europe. But then WikiHouse is getting built everywhere, so you have a lot more varieties of inspirations and what people has achieved, which you can draw some inspiration from. You can talk to the people in the community. So that's one of the reasons we are keen to progress this further, because it does help the wider community, rather than just us, and we don't have to keep all the technologies to ourselves. It's best to share it so everybody can use and benefit from.
Thank you. Should we have a look at some of the questions that have come through on YouTube? Mel, you happy going through those?
Yeah. We have a question from Manfred, who is asking, how is a WikiHouse isolated? Is there a vapor diffusion calculation?
Yes, it is. So when we did our turnkey projects, so normally architect work with us, with the M&E engineers, to calculate all the vapor movement, the air circulations requirement that's the building regs needs to be satisfied, as well as the dew point in the system. So it is very carefully calculated, and all calculations has to be submitted before how we build up the whole system. The way we build the garden studio as a good examples, we kept it vapor open because we know there is no moisture generator in the building. We don't have a kitchen here, or we don't have a shower or a bathroom. These are the main moisture generator components in the system. So the assembly here is vapor open from both sides. So if you were to get wet for any reason, or the moistures can travel through both ways, because there is no barrier to stop moistures to move in either direction. When we did the New Malden projects, where we had to work with the building regulations, and it has a shower in the small studio space. So we have to be very mindful of once the shower is finished, sometimes the door can left open, and the moisture, we have to get it out of the building. So we use intelligently controlled vapor check membrane, and they diffuse the vapor as needed of how the pressure of the building works. So we do have a vapor barrier, and we have various membranes to control the element of weather, either it's from wind resistance from outside or the vapor control from inside.
Great, thanks for that. We have a question also from Luke asking, do you outsource engineering certification or final sign-off?
Yes, absolutely, always. We don't have in-house structural engineers, so we work closely with our structural engineer, as well as we have worked on a New Malden project. We worked with another structural engineer. So it doesn't have to be the WikiHouse specialized structural engineer. As a timber frame components, any structural engineers would be able to put the calculations together for you. In UK, we don't need as much as of a stress test of the building, but it is fully structurally calculated using certified engineer.
Thanks. Another question I have is, you mentioned you started learning SketchUp. Is that where you started?
Yes.
Is that, what would you say to somebody who's like starting off with WikiHouse and trying to get their heads around SketchUp?
There is a huge resource available on online on YouTube, which this is where I started. And the main takeaway is not to start looking at the models, but have a look at what every single function. If there is a tape measure, have a figure out how to use the tape measure in SketchUp, and there are many ways to use it. So brush up your skills on what you have available from that tool. Once you have all the resources available, and then drawings are just the easier part of it, because you can use the various features of the software that you just learned, which can, there are many ways of drawing a cube in SketchUp. But once you know all the components, you know the best tool to use to draw a cube and all the shapes and sizes.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I've been trying to get my head around SketchUp with not much success. But yeah, that's really good advice. So Piyush, it sounds like your business has been growing as WikiHouse has been evolving as well. So now we are at, we've just launched Skylark, 6-7 months ago. What are your thoughts about the latest WikiHouse system?
Skylark is certainly on a right path of standardizing components. As you have seen, pre-Skylark, or while the Skylark was also occurring, we have also moved to a hybrid system because we go and install on site. We know which systems works the most. So RAN work very much when you don't have a site access, because all panelized system can come from the door of your small doorway of your house, and we can easily take it to the site, but it does take a longer to build on site. Where if you have a prefabricated boxes and roof components and corners blocks, the window, the door, they can be prepared in the nice controlled environment, away from the rain and cold and heat sometimes, and that helps reduce the time that we need on the site. So if the site has the space to store the components, or if the site has a good access, the Skylark or component digitally blocks, like Lego style blocks, are much more easier and friendly to work with on site for either us as a WikiHouse installer, or any timber carpenter, or the joiner who can work with the timber. They can easily figure out how these components go together. They don't have to learn how each small jigsaw puzzle style parts goes together. So the complexity of the system, it makes it even more simpler, the Skylark, I would say, as opposed to the other technology.
Phil, I've got a quick question, Piyush, then on the same sort of note. Is in what way can WikiHouse, I guess, it be better and improve itself to make your life as a manufacturer installer easier, from the system side or from the sort of infrastructure? What's your sort of take on that?
I think more of us have on board is always a beneficial. So more and more installers or manufacturers come on board. We can then share each other's techniques and efficiency, how the similar components can be built. We have been running few ideas of our own. So if WikiHouse has a standard wall components, when the workshop can have a dead time or a low time, we could cut these parts while we are busy with other projects. We can use the labor and resources we have to maximize how the components are built. So we have a plan to pre-cut some of the materials and have it all stacked up and stored, which then can be manufactured and assembled and insulated on demand much faster pace. But again, these are all the ideas. Right now, early stage, everything seems to be bespoke, which is okay. But once it's all settled down, hopefully we'll have a standard components which any manufacturer you can just buy, like you'd buy IKEA furniture. And then there is always a bespoke element of it, which I discussed, like you could always design it out. But more and more standard components, certified components, which makes life easier from the structural calculation perspective, which reduces the cost, which can then the client get benefit from. That's I think my thought.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I think the sort of need to support each other. And that's why it's great to have the community today, and hopefully we'll be launching something soon that Mel's been working on to create a bit of base for that knowledge and for people to connect with. The other thing was obviously the last couple of years have been quite difficult in terms of fluctuating prices of materials, and I wonder how what's your sort of experience of that and how you manage that as a small company.
The material prices is gone expensive across the board. So it's not just the timber manufacturer. It's for the brick and block industry. It's the whole as a construction industry is suffering from the high prices. So I think the prices are settled down now. I think the stock availability is coming to a good point, and who wants to do the projects are already in the works, is coming to the terms that this is the price. The cost cutting is happening somewhere else. So maybe the clients are deciding to buy probably the furniture later stage, or don't buy the bespoke furniture, or don't get to make the bespoke furniture. So the clients are finding a balance, the fabric first approach, where they wanted to invest better on their building, which lasts for their lifetime or beyond. But the things that can be changed and replaced, this is where the client are concentrating to cost cut. That's in our experience is happening. So we are working on projects. We have taken a little time off during the summer holiday because the construction industry tend to get very quiet during summer holidays as the kids go away. But that's probably helped a little bit of the pricing. But now the price, we found it really is settled down and getting much better. In fact, some of the lower benefit is getting passed on to us as a manufacturer.
That's good to hear. It's encouraging, isn't it? But yeah, obviously,
absolutely. And then you get forced to do your own efficiency because you don't want to pass on every single cost to the client, because then the feasibility of the projects will run slim.
Yeah. And so what's next for Pulp Build? What are some of your big plans? I know you've got a couple of projects underway at the moment. One which we know quite well. I think that's starting construction in the next couple of weeks. But what else is on your horizon?
So we, like I mentioned, we have 110 meter square workshop, and we do from fine furniture grade to the WikiHouse style digitally fabricated constructions. And so our workshop has to switch between these modes. We have to be very careful with the fine furniture grade, the material when we load up on the CNC, the scratches. So we have to be very mindful how we treat each material to work with. So we have just got a keys for our second workshop that would be in Cambridge. So my other partner will be heading and running the day-to-day side of that. Primary focus for that workshop is about 3,000 square foot workshop, and primary focus would be all digitally fabricated chassis and system and projects moved there. So we got our new CNC machine coming there, hopefully much faster than what we have to help the system. You don't need a very fast CNC machine to cut WikiHouse. I have to say that, but we have been using our machine, which doesn't have auto tool changer, and to help some of the other projects, we thought it's better to upgrade the machine. We will still carry on working with the machine what we have here in Leicester. So we are trying to diversify and try to take a much larger project, which in the past we honestly couldn't do, and we couldn't let the client down. So we explained them the situation. So we love to do it, but we don't have a space or the manpower to handle it. And hopefully, in future, we should be able to take a larger projects.
That's exciting. I didn't realize you're opening a second workshop. I have a question. Piyush, if you think back to when you were you finished your old job before Pulp even existed, and you think about that version of yourself now, what advice would you give to that older version of yourself, younger version of yourself, even about what you've learned so far about starting up a business, going to build things?
If I be honest, I would say probably I should have left the job maybe 5 years ago. I tend to every job has its own trajectory to go up, and at some point it starts to flatten out. When it flatten out, probably I should have made a switch then. But then I realized I might be too early for the market for the digitally fabricated system, or we would have been same place today, or help WikiHouse even more faster to help WikiHouse team grow as well. But we are in a good time right now, where everybody's very carefully thinking about the energy prices. So we are perfectly placed where we can show the benefit of the WikiHouse system. I worked as a first employee in a small startup, gave me tremendous amount of experience, and not just software design. I got involved in shipping the products, inspecting the product. So thanks to our directors who didn't let everybody do whatever they want to try out, and we helped this team grow at that time. And we were very lean, and the company is still doing really well, and ended up winning a lot of awards. So all the lesson learned from there, it was definitely helpful how to lead a company, and leadership skills that I much needed.
Yeah, so it seems like it's all come together at the right time for you.
I think so.
Yeah, it sounds like you're busy as well, so that's always really good. We had a question from Vincent, actually. I think he's just asking if there's a place where you share any your project files or solutions somewhere online. And I think you mentioned you have your Instagram that's quite detailed.
Yeah, and right now we kept it to whoever reaches out to us. We give them full open answers. Sometimes we give them a section of the building. We don't tend to give out the full section of the building, purely because it is structurally calculated for that specific site, and there are a lot more goes into releasing the files that somebody could just take up and start cutting and building. If there is architect reach out, we can easily share a lot of our sections and models, because I know they've been used as a learning process, and see how they fit in their current design and practices. We have been meaning to write some sort of blog pages to show how each stage is. Like if you were to buy CNC machine, what sort of feeds and speeds you run to, what tooling you uses, something that's we learn from the community, and we'd like to share it back. But again, having a small teams and trying to run 2 workshops now, we gonna find ourselves really busy. Hopefully we'll find some content writer to help us turn our ideas into some sort of words that can help. But reach out to us. We are very helpful, either on Instagram or on our website, emails, or our phone numbers are there on our website, so you can just call. You'll come straight to me, and very happy to help. So no matter how big or small question is, we'll tell you what exact tool we use. So we used to use a tool that cuts 20 sheets, and we used to throw away the tools. Now we cut a new tool with the different speeds and feeds, and we cut 200 WikiHouse sheets into it. So we don't have to think about adding the tool cost to the quotation and that sort of efficiency. So happy to help.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like you are this fountain of knowledge, Piyush. We need to capture all that somewhere. I'm sure when you're a bit less busy. I don't have any more questions, unless you have any, Clayton.
No, I think that's fine. I think there's a question from Christian, which sounds quite relevant.
Oh yeah, I think that's about the community. Yeah, so
Yeah.
Piyush has mentioned the community several times. We currently have a community on Slack, that's been going on for quite a number of years, and we're going to be moving it in the next little while. So more details of that coming soon. But yeah, it's a great place to talk to others, to have those very detailed conversations about specific topics relating to WikiHouse. So we're hoping to replicate that somewhere else soon. I think that's it for us this morning. Thank you so much for joining us, Piyush. As I said, I will include your URL, website, and Instagram in a little bit into this recording. And yes, we are always looking for more manufacturers and especially installers to join our on-demand providers list. You can find more details at wikihouse.cc/providers, or reach out to us if you're interested in joining that list. Yeah, so that's us for today. Again, thank you so much, Piyush, for all your knowledge and for wanting to take part this morning. We hold these events once a month, so we'll be back in October. Thank you very much, and see you later.
Okay, see ya.
Bye.
Bye.